How's it going, everybody? Welcome in to another episode of the Mavs Step Back Podcast. I'm your host, Dalton Trigg. I am rejoined by my co-host, Drew Johnson. We have a lot of good things to talk about today. First of all, you can find all of our stuff over on Twitter at Dalton_Trigg and at Coach Drew33. And be sure to like, rate, and subscribe on every podcast platform that you use, and especially YouTube if you like watching us on there. Be sure to sub there and give us, a lot of likes and comments and stuff of that nature. So the Mavs are sitting pretty at 6-1 on the season. Their latest win was on the second night of a back-to-back in Orlando against the Magic, and it was their third game in 4 nights. They had heavy legs. They were tired. They fell down by 15. As good as the Magic have been defensively, I think I can't remember if they're first or second defensively, and I think it was second, though, coming into last night. So, I mean, to be on the road against a good defensive team in that situation, you wouldn't have really batted an eye if the Mavs hadn't come back from 15 to win that game. But they ended up doing it. I mean, they came all the way back, second straight 15-point comeback for them, and they improved to 6-1 on the season. So there's a lot of stuff to talk about with this game, and we will start with Kyrie Irving because, his 3-point shot has not been there yet, but he has taken on this role of just being an elite distributor, a facilitator. Like he is, I mean, we knew he could pass, but I mean, he is doing stuff that is just at a next level as far as, a star point guard and his passing ability. And he's playing good defense too. He was a team high tying plus 18 with Grant Williams last night. He had 21 points, shot 8 of 20 from the field, 2 of 6 from 3. And he had 10 assists, which is back-to-back games with 10 assists for him, which is amazing, 6 rebounds and 3 steals. So Kyrie Irving, his shot isn't necessarily falling at the rate we're used to seeing for him over the last several years, but he has turned it on in a different way, and it has really helped out the Mavs, even though they're not playing their best basketball overall. So that's one good thing that I've seen since he's come back from his foot sprain. But what are your thoughts on Kyrie and this different role he has taken on for the team so far?
I think it was a necessary. What's the word? He has altered his identity as a basketball player this year. He's completely changed it from being just an ISO scoring machine to someone who will actually run an offense. And because of this, he's giving all the young guys tons of confidence.
Absolutely.
We're not playing our best basketball yet per se, but I think we are playing extremely confident basketball. And that goes a long ways, especially whenever you have the amount of youth that we have on this team. I think that we have a lot of exciting pieces surrounding him, and I think that he understands that, and that's why he has taken more of a facilitator role. I don't know if Kidd was the one that actually talked it over with him or if he just came to this conclusion himself, but he's what the Mavs need right now as far as, being a facilitator and making everyone around him better.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I'm glad you brought it up. That's the biggest thing. He's elevating the confidence of these young guys, and he mentioned it before the season started. He's wanting to pace himself, to where not just where he's peaking at the right time this season, but the team overall peaks at the right time. You don't want to just have everything, hit the ceiling early, and then you're kind of, what's the word, sputtering toward the end of the season. So I think the approach is good right now for them. I think they're doing this the right way. They're getting the new guys involved and more comfortable. This doesn't look like, in a way, it does look like a team that has 7 to 8 brand new players on the roster from last season. But then in another way, it's like, well, all the pieces work. So it's not as bad of a transition as what, most people would think. And the record speaks for itself. I mean, the only loss came in Denver, which is already tough, even if you're not playing a defending champion, but you're playing in the mile-high altitude and against Nikola Jokic and, just a mammoth of roster that they have size wise. So, and they ended up making that.
They're just good.
They are. They're incredible. And the Mavs ended up making that a close game in the fourth quarter. So a lot of good things look, Grant Williams, just running through the box score here from that Orlando Magic game. Grant Williams continues to be amazing. He had 13 points. And as I mentioned earlier, he was tied with Kyrie for plus 18 in that game last night. But he had 13 points, shot 5 of 9 from the field, 2 of 5 from 3. Which is good, but it's kind of off from where he was at coming into last night, shooting 56% from 3. You had Derrick Jones Jr., who only had 5 points and 4 rebounds and an assist, but he had 2 blocks, and he had a rim rocking dunk that he swung a little too long on the rim and got a technical. Now, look, in my opinion. And what he's probably pleading to the ref is like, if he doesn't swing like that, he's gonna like fly into the basket and break his back when he falls on the ground.
And it was also in traffic too. It isn't like it was just a wide open dunk. There were people in the vicinity, and I'm no official. I mean, I tell my kids whenever we're scrimmaging all the time how bad of an official I am. But I think you always have to err on the side of safety. And I think in that regard, just hanging on the rim was self-preservation at that point. So I would have liked to have not seen a call on that, but whatever.
And it came off, I mentioned Kyrie just turning it up a notch defensively. And, that one came off of a Kyrie Irving steal. And it looked like Kyrie was going to go for the reverse layup or something. And then he just threaded it between 2 defenders with Derrick Jones Jr. sprinting down the lane. And man, it was awesome. It was one of those things that, even the away fans in Orlando were getting out of their seats like, ooh.
Yeah.
So that was really cool to see. Derek Lively, he had a pretty good game, 10 points, 5 rebounds, 1 steal, 1 block, 4 of 5 from the field. So still very efficient stuff from him. Only played 16 minutes, but that's because he got in foul trouble. And it really wasn't his fault, in my opinion. Now, Scott Foster, he's been in the league forever. He's a well-respected official in the league. And I know people give him grief for how he officiates some games. And, I thought Derek Lively got some really cheap. He got 2 really back-to-back cheap moving screen calls in that first quarter, which really set him back for the rest of the game as far as his minutes played. So if he hadn't gotten those 2 cheap ones at the very beginning, he could have had a bigger impact than what he did. And probably the Mavs don't fall behind as much as they did if that doesn't happen. So, but still, all things considered, even with the foul trouble, he played a big factor, as he has throughout this entire first stretch for the Mavs this season. Irving, we've already gone through his stuff. Luka, it's amazing. We're like almost 10 minutes into this pod, and we haven't even talked about Luka Doncic. That's
the first time we've said his name.
That's how different this year's team is. It's there's so many different things to talk about, but Luka, he was his superstar self. He had a scare with he had to do the concussion protocol during that game because he got hit in the back of the head and they had to stop play for a little bit. So that kind of worried you for a little bit, but he came back. He finished the game with 29 points, was a +7 on the night. Did have 6 turnovers, but he had 6 assists, 3 rebounds, 2 steals, and he shot 5 of 10 from 3, including a clutch 3 that essentially ended the game at the very end. It was great. Look, the people have talked about, whether Luka and Kyrie can coexist in clutch situations. Like, everybody knows that they're going to get theirs offensively and they're going to carry the Mavs throughout the game. But it's like at the end of the game, when there's a big shot to be had, how are they going to coexist? And, they had some trouble with it last year. It's like, okay, well, who wants the ball? Do you want the ball? Should I take the ball? Like, there was just some confusion there. There's none of that this year. I mean, there's a lot more chemistry, and we saw it last night. The Mavs were teetering on that 9-10 point margin toward the end of the game, and Luka flung a pass over to Kyrie for a wide open 3. He nailed it, and then they got a stop on the defensive end. Kyrie got a steal, ran it up court, pass it to Luka for a spot up three. He nailed it. And it's like, well, there you go.
Yeah. I mean, and that's just a microcosm of, I think, of the greater thing that we're looking at here, which is they've learned how to create for each other. And that is how they're going to coexist, not just by getting theirs offensively, clear out, let me do my thing. No, they're going to create for each other. And the fact of the matter is the Mavs are at their best whenever Luka and Kyrie are creating for one another.
Oh,
Period.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's been great to see. And I mentioned that I wrote a piece on DallasBasketball.com about, 3 intriguing stats to monitor as this season progresses in regard to their 6-1 start. And, one of the things that I'm impressed by is that they have become such a good clutch. They are the best clutch team in the league right now. Their net rating is far and above any other team in the league. Like their net rating is like a plus 57 in clutch situations so far this year. The next highest so far is the Milwaukee Bucks, and they're like plus 38. So, I mean, it's not the gap is wide between the Mavs and the clutch and every other team in the clutch so far. So, and what makes it more impressive is that going back to last season after that trade for Kyrie, they've only played like 21 games together now. They played 16 last year and they played 5 this year because Kyrie missed 2 games with his foot sprain. So there's still so much growth that can come from this, not just from them individually, but, with the rest of the guys around them, developing chemistry with the other guys too. And, it's been good to see guys like Jaden Hardy get minutes these last several games. We knew what he was capable of, and he's finally had a chance to come on and show that he shouldn't have been on the bench in the first handful of games. So he's getting consistent play now. We got to give a shout out to Tim Hardaway Jr. As despite the many different trade scenarios that he's been thrown into over the last couple seasons and this past off season, and especially when we were considering if the Mavs needed more veteran big man depth, which I do think they still need some depth on the back end. I think Lively's capable of starting, but they do need some more depth on the back end there. But Tim Hardaway Jr. has been awesome. He has been a key part of this. And, he finished with 21 points off the bench last night, 8 of 16 shooting, 4 of 11 from 3, had 6 rebounds as well. He is the only player in the league to have, I believe, 3 20-point performances off the bench so far this season. So he's very much in the thick of that 6 man of the year race. I'd say he's probably leading it at this point. But he's playing at a level. This is the production from Tim Hardaway Jr. that got him paid for his last contract. And then, we haven't seen this level from him in probably 2 seasons. But it started to come back when they traded for Kyrie. And I think Kyrie has really enhanced what Tim Hardaway Jr. is able to do because since he's played with Kyrie, his shooting splits are like 46% overall, 44% from 3, and, 90% from the free throw line. So that's elite stuff. I mean, if that continues, we're going to be talking about this Mavs team as a title contender sooner than anybody probably could have expected.
No, I mean, just the fact that we're firing on all cylinders right now. I mean, it's very exciting. You have to pray that the injury bug doesn't hit us in any sort of way. And, we all know that it inevitably will. I just hope that it's nothing serious, but it's an unfortunate part of the game. But again, it all gets traced back to Kyrie and Luka and both of those guys being able to create for everyone around them. It's kind of like, I know that Kyrie probably doesn't want to hear the name LeBron, but it's kind of like whenever LeBron was back in Cleveland, his first stint, and people were talking about trading for his teammates. And I forget who it was that said it, but he said, "Don't trade for anyone from Cleveland because they're falsely amplified." And I don't want to say that that's the case with everyone in Dallas, but they're definitely being made better because of those two, I think.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And look, I think one thing that's been kind of underrated in the first part of the season too And I mean, you can attest to this as well, but Jason Kidd, he got a lot of flack last year based on how the team performed, even though he didn't really have the talent on the roster aside from Luka. And then after he got Kyrie, even those two guys were dealing with injuries the rest of the year. But
Yeah.
he got a lot of heat last year. And so far this season, he's done a really good job. Now, I mean, the Mavs, they've given up a ton of points in some of these games, even in the wins. But, the game plan appears to be they. I mean, I like how they're strategizing things. It's just a matter of guys going out there and executing that game plan, as Tim Hardaway Jr. said in his post-game press conference last night, post-game interview on Bally. But I've got to tip my hat, so to speak, to Jason Kidd, because he's had a really good bounce back year, and we talked about it. The first two seasons for him coaching the Mavs, they have not gotten off to a good start. So it was really important that for him to show with the new talent influx that they had, that they're capable of getting off to a good start, and they have so far. So shout out to Jason Kidd. What have you liked so far about how the Mavs have played so far? Because the pace has been really good too. I mean, they're playing a lot faster than they used to.
The pace is much better. The ball doesn't stick; it moves. Kind of delving a little bit deeper into things. I really love and I've already said this in previous pods, but I love our rotation patterns. I think that Jason Kidd's been doing a really good job of finding minutes for people, specifically Jaden Hardy. I really think that he's done a really good job as just a game manager in general. And that's one of the main ways that you can impact a game as a coach is by managing people's minutes properly. And when you're as talented as we are now, I mean, it's just all about getting the right people the right minutes,
Yeah. I mean, getting the right people the right minutes, making it to where, like Kyrie said, you're pacing yourself. You're not going to – that's what I love so much about this start. Yes, they have started 6-1, and it's they're the best clutch team in the league and everything. But it should be scary for the rest of the league that they've done all this and yet it still hasn't been their best. They've done all this and they're one of the best teams in the league and they haven't played their best basketball yet. So that's the biggest takeaway I have from it. They'll have another chance to add on to this record. They can be 7-1 if they beat the Toronto Raptors on Wednesday night. So they go back home, and for the rest of this week, it's the first time this season that they'll play two games in the same city. They've been away and then home and away and then home, and that finally ends this week because they'll play the Raptors on Wednesday at home. And then on Friday, it'll be their second in-season tournament game against the Los Angeles Clippers and their new big three of Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, and James Harden, who, James Harden lost his debut with the Clippers. They lost to the Knicks in blowout fashion last night. So that'll be interesting. Luka, his eyes light up every time he sees the Clippers because of the history there and the previous postseason matchups. And I think that's going to be a really good Friday night game at American Airlines Center. And then after that, they travel to New Orleans for 2 straight games. I'll be there in person. I'm not looking forward to that one on the two. Let's see, Sunday night is the first one. That'll be like a regular court, regular stuff, And then Tuesday night, it'll be another in-season tournament game. And then I have to wear some shades in the building to keep my retinas from burning out.
Dude, those courts are awful, dude. Like, I don't think I've seen one that I've liked so far. It's just terrible.
The only one I really like the only one I like that's kind of really out there and bright and, it's almost a little too much, but I still think it's pretty cool is the Chicago Bulls. I thought theirs was pretty cool. It was like it's like the Red Sea.
Yeah. It's so red, though.
Yeah.
It's so
I thought that was pretty
red.
cool. But, that first one that we had to watch when they played the Nuggets with that blue, that bright blue and yellow. Oh, my God. My eyes.
Terrible. University of Memphis, they did something similar to that for their court, and I can't stand it.
I can't either.
I,
Speaking of
I'm a
college
huge
basketball,
hardwood guy, so
that's getting ramped up. I saw
boy
my
is it.
Southern Miss Golden Eagles, the defending Sun Belt champions. They started out with a large win, large win as in gap win margin against William Carey. So that's always good. But look, this is I think we've started out really well. Not just with the team itself and their record and how they're playing and still having room to grow. But I think with the pod as well. I mean, I thought I would be dead tired by now because I'm only used to doing maybe one pod a week. But I said when the season started, I was like, you know what? I'm going to try my best to do a recap pod for every game. And if not every game, I'm at least going to come on here 2 times a week and, see how it goes. So far, so good. I'm pacing myself just like Kyrie.
There you go.
But as it
Distributing
stands,
info.
yeah. Look, as it stands right now, Nuggets are the top team in the West, 1 seed at 7-1. Mavs are second at 6-1, and then you have the Golden State Warriors on their tail. They're 6-2. So really good stuff so far. There's a lot of basketball to be played, and we will be taking you step by step through all of it throughout this season. So, guys, I appreciate y'all coming in and listening to us every single time. Like I said at the beginning, be sure to like, rate, and subscribe on all your favorite podcast platforms, rather. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. That really helps us out. Also, put your social media at, whether it's on Instagram, Twitter, whatever it may be, and you'll throw your name into the hat for future giveaways, T-shirts, occasional ticket giveaways, stuff like that. So be sure to do that. I'm always checking that periodically. And, if we're doing a giveaway, I'll just pick randomly from people who have left us reviews on Apple Podcasts. And also be sure to subscribe on YouTube. We are approaching 12,000 subscribers, which is amazing. I mean, given where we started with this channel, I mean, that's just incredible. And we're going to keep bringing you guys the content you want. And, hopefully we get that up to around that 20,000 mark by the end of the season. I know one thing, if it keeps on the pace it has been, that's a pretty attainable goal. So we'll see how it goes. But guys, appreciate it. Y'all have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.